welcome to our show today, Conversations. We used to have them all the time in our household. Remember when your parents and your great-grandparents maybe had actual dinner? You sat down with no electronic devices and you had real life conversations. We're going to have some of those today. Our first guest is Dr. Amy Harkins, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her story. But let me preface that story because she does amazing work in the greater Houston area with Easter Seals of Greater Houston of helping out veterans and their families. She is a licensed psychologist, and today she's going to talk to us about crabs. Dr. Harkins?
Thanks for that wonderful introduction, Tim. I want to tell a little story about crabs in the water. Last summer, there wasn't much to do. We went to the beach down in Galveston, and it's muddy water, and my son got bit by a crab and he freaked out, but he loves the beach. And so it took a month before we got back there. He was fine. There was nothing really, but it just really scared him. So the next time we went to the beach, I sat down with him in the water and he was screaming and bouncing and screaming. And I'm a psychologist, so I have a few tricks about how to get people to settle down. And I decided to try to use some of those on him. And I used a grounding technique about tell me what you hear. And he could hear the seagulls and the sand and the wind and the waves. And he could, what do you see? And he could see the colors of the sky and the everything. And then, he's starting to settle down and he's relaxing into the water and we're having a nice time. And then I got bit by a crab. My toe chomped on really hard. I flew up like Superwoman, grabbed my kid, screamed, yelled, and flew up into and my son's like, what happened? And I'm like, I got bit by a crab. It doesn't necessarily mean like the tricks and tips and tools that we have to monitor our own emotional reaction are fantastic. And yet there's still crabs in the water. And I think that's kind of an analogy that fits for right now. There are dangers in the environment, right? And then with the COVID and with all kinds of other issues that are going on. And then even within our own families, Tim, the conversations around our tables have gotten kind of hard because people are disagreeing a lot about things that we used to never even have to talk about. We didn't even have to consider. So that's the story about crabs in the water.
That's a great story, Dr. Harkins, and I think it's very applicable to people as well. I remember visiting with an Army buddy of mine in Maine where he was from, and I never would have known it because he seems like he was born and bred in Texas after we got out of Fort Hood back from Iraq. And he was sharing me a story of while we were up there, and his dad and his grandfather were crabbers. I don't know what the technical term is, but they would catch the crabs and then they would put them in this huge bucket, but there was not a lid on the bucket. And I said, James, why is there not a lid on the bucket? He's like, Tim, watch. And he put one crab in the bucket and would scurry around and would try to get out. Nothing, couldn't get up without any footing. But as he caught more crabs, he put more crabs in the bucket and they would kind of stack on themselves. And I'm like, oh, they're helping each other out. They weren't. As soon as one crab would see daylight and almost get out of the bucket, the other crabs in unison would pull him back down. And I think that is about our life as well. Sometimes we're surrounded by people that we think that are there to help us, but they're there to pull us down. So thank you for your insight on that. We're going to go to our next guest today, Miss Lori Marcus, and she is going to share a little bit more experience about what she's been doing in the Fort Bend County area.
Thank you, Tim. What we have been doing is with Fort Bend Recovers, our behavioral health work group, we are trying to reach out to as many people as we can to share with them resources to help them if there are crabs in the water, or if they were affected by the recent winter storm, and trying to help with their emotional balance and giving them ways or giving them ideas or even videos to watch to help them.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And our last guest today is from Attack Poverty, and she joins us as part of the social media team. It's Miss Natalie Cortez, And she's going to talk a little bit about the events and activities that are going on in the greater Fort Bend area to make sure that the solid and concrete foundation is built for those who may feel a little bit, who don't know the difference of being broke and being poor. And she's going to tell us a little bit about that today. Miss Natalie.
Thank you, Tim. My name is Natalie. I'm the community social worker here at Attack Poverty. And so a little bit about what we do is we are a community nonprofit, and we are strategically placed in communities as a resource center to help establish and build relationships with people, to work through that cycle of generational poverty and really empower individuals to attack poverty in their life and community. So that looks like providing adult education classes in the community, like GED classes, ESL classes. That also looks like our after school and summer school programs called UCAN Academy. We also support the community through revitalization. So that could be minor home repairs or home repairs in response to the recent disasters. But recently we've been able to include counseling in that scope to serve people holistically, and really just kind of address some of those community traumas that happen during disasters as well. So thank you, Tim.
Excellent. And I love the group that the Fort Bend County has put together, because it's a no wrong door approach. You could come for the financial matters with Natalie and her team, or you could come through the mental health, through the portal with Easter Seals or some of the other organizations. And then you find out, oh, there's additional resources, regular resources that are funded by local, state, and federal, but a lot of them by the community. And there are pop-up grants that come up. Doesn't matter if it's Hurricane Harvey, a freeze, or somebody turned off your electricity. And if you want to know more, simply click the link at the bottom and see if you can find the resources there, or you can contact Stevie Ballo at her information below, and you will see her and Sue Levin and Kathy Renfro on our next edition of Crabs in the Water. Welcome back to our program, Crabs in the Water. We have a special 2-minute train up from a local expert who has been in the industry for over 3 decades. She doesn't look it, but she has a wealth of knowledge from all of the activities and people she's connected with over the years. I didn't mean that she didn't look like she was intelligent. I mean, it doesn't look like she's been in the industry for over 30 years. Her smile and her energy are unparalleled, and she's going to tell us a quick story and give us a 2-minute train up. Connie?
Thank you. Thank you for that great introduction and those compliments. Yes, I'm a licensed psychologist, and I've been doing this work for over 35 years. So I have this story, and it's interesting about what the fears and the anxieties that we all have experienced. So I decided it was time to celebrate my 60th birthday and take a little break. I was also feeling a lot of burnout, and those signs of the compassion fatigue were things that normally I could react to and handle, I couldn't, definitely causing a lot of anxiety. So went to the beach, my favorite place to relax, took my grandchildren, my 3-year-old and 1-year-old. It was great, except when I got bit by a crab over. And all of a sudden, I went into this hypervigilance mode of protecting my grandchildren from being bit by a little crab. And what was so amazing about that, or so unusual, was I had been bit by crabs before, but this time I reacted to, this is a danger. I need to protect my grandchildren from this danger and try to control this environment. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. I mean, there's going to be crabs in the ocean. This is part of the experience. It's manageable. But I just wanted to share that because that is something that has happened to me and that I've seen with the people that we work with, experiences that typically we can handle pretty well have really caused these exacerbated reactions, anxiety, fear, hypervigilance. So just needed to share that about crabs in the water. They're there, and we need to keep it in perspective. Thank you for
That's a
letting me
great story,
share.
Connie, because when you look at any problem and you remove the emotional quotient of that equation, you look at it from a more pragmatic view, and you know that there's a crab, you know there's water, and you know that there's a human element. Which one of the three can you control? Which one should you control? And knowing your options as you go forward and just knowing your safe boundaries, that has a lot of applicable status over into how we deal with humans and our fears and what has happened over the last 18 months, especially in the greater Houston area, because it's not an infinite system where we just keep to pull all these resources. They're finite, and we have more people moving here, which is adding to the help, but also adding to the spreading out. And what you mentioned there, a lot of not just clinicians, but a lot of veteran service organizations and civic organizations in the area are suffering from volunteer fatigue. And it's something to get them together on a group just like this. So we're hoping that more people will be watching this, plug into the resources that are available for them as one of the people who've rolled up their sleeves in a community, and they can catch us on the next episode of Crabs in the Water.